Before diving into this incredible story, remember to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here, every story has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. Sunlight filtered through the blinds in Lincoln High School's science lab, casting bright streaks across the neatly arranged desks. 12-year-old Emily Johnson, her hands gripping her notebook, looked around. Her classmates whispered, some exchanging amused glances, others curious ones. The teacher, Miss Henderson, a stern woman in her 50s, stood by the blackboard with a condescending smile. "So, who wants to share what they did this weekend?" asked Miss Henderson, her sharp voice echoing in the room. Emily timidly raised her hand. Some students' eyes narrowed, anticipating ridicule. "My mother works at NASA." A surprising silence fell over the class, followed by a dry burst of laughter from Mrs. Henderson. "Oh, come on, Emily," she said, shaking her head. "You mean she files papers in some office, not that she pilots rockets, right?" Emily felt her cheeks flush, but she remained upright, gripping her pen as if clinging to a lifebuoy in an ocean of mockery. The other students began to laugh and whisper among themselves. "She's bragging. Nobody believes that." Emily lowered her eyes, but a small inner voice reassured her, one day, they will know the truth. During recess, Emily wandered down the hall, her heart heavy. She remembered her mother, Dr. Angela Johnson, always telling her, "It doesn't matter what others say, Emily. The world will see what we do. Stay proud of who you are and what we accomplish." Emily knew Angela was no ordinary woman. Her research on space propulsion and missions to Mars and the Moon made her one of NASA's most respected scientists. But at Lincoln High, no one could imagine a black woman achieving such feats. That day, Emily walked into class, head held high, ready to face the skepticism and mockery. She didn't yet know that the real turning point would come a few days later, when her mother would come to the school to show everyone that the truth always triumphs over lies and ridicule. The teacher, for her part, continued to smile, convinced that Emily had simply made up the story. But the atmosphere in the classroom had changed, and something invisible, yet powerful, hung in the air, a premonition that things were about to change. On Monday mornings, Emily Johnson walked through the doors of Lincoln High with her slightly worn backpack, containing her notebooks and her silent dreams. Each step echoed in the hall filled with chatty, hurried students. She always felt a mixture of excitement and apprehension as she entered her science classroom. Sitting at her desk by the window, Emily watched the sunbeams dance across the pages of her textbook. Her classmates watched her, some with curiosity, others with that mocking smile she knew all too well. "So, Emily, did your mom send you rockets for your snack again?" asked Jake, a fifth-grade student who always liked to make fun of her. Emily looked up calmly. "No, Jake. She just taught me things about rockets and space." A laugh rose behind her. Ms. Henderson, their physics teacher, frowned and shook her head. "Emily, you should stop telling these ridiculous stories. NASA doesn't employ, how should I put it, children to homeschool." Emily felt her chest tighten, but she took a deep breath. Her mother had always taught her to hold her head high in the face of mockery. "It doesn't matter what others think, Emily. You know what we do and what you're worth." During break, Emily took out her notes and scrolled through her calculations in a small notebook. She was practicing on her own, trying to understand the equations her mother had taught her, concepts few of her classmates could even imagine. As she wrote, she heard Jake and his friends whispering. "She really believes her mother works at NASA. What a joke." Emily felt anger rising, but also a touch of determination. One day, all this laughter would disappear when the truth came out. Meanwhile, at home, Dr. Angela Johnson was working on a prototype space propulsion system for NASA. Her daughter sat beside her, absorbed in the calculations and diagrams her mother had shown her. Angela would occasionally glance up, smiling, seeing in Emily a curiosity and intelligence that surpassed her years. "Never let anyone make you doubt yourself," she would tell him. "Even if they laugh today, one day they'll see what we're really doing." Emily knew she had to be patient. And that patience would soon pay off, sooner than she imagined. On Tuesday morning, the science class at Lincoln High was buzzing with activity. Ms. Henderson was writing a complex physics problem on the board, the students were nervously scribbling in their notebooks, while Emily followed each step with intense concentration. The problem concerned the trajectory of a satellite orbiting the Earth, a subject that would have seemed intimidating to many. But Emily, thanks to her mother's lessons and her own research, understood the equations and knew how to apply them. Ms. Henderson, noticing Emily's intense focus, frowned. "Very well, let's see if anyone can come up with a solution." "Emily?" Emily raised her hand, her heart pounding. "If we apply Kepler's formula and consider the minimum atmospheric resistance, the trajectory should be adjusted by slightly increasing the orbital speed. This would allow the satellite to remain stable without consuming too much fuel." A murmur rippled through the classroom. Some students leaned forward to quickly write notes, others stared at her, mouths agape. Ms. Henderson, annoyed and visibly surprised by the accuracy of the answer, tried to downplay its impact. "Yes, it's interesting, Emily. But I doubt it's applicable in the real world." Emily took a deep breath, feeling anger rising, but remaining calm. "Actually, Ms. Henderson, my mother applies these kinds of calculations every day at NASA." A sarcastic laugh echoed through the room. Mrs. Henderson shook her head disdainfully. "This story again? Seriously, Emily, it's time to come back down to earth." But this time, something had changed in the classroom. The students' looks were no longer solely mocking. Some were intrigued, curious to know if Emily was telling the truth. Even Jake, the classmate who had been the biggest tease, frowned, slightly unsettled by the certainty in Emily's voice. After class, Emily headed towards her locker, her shoulders tense but her head held high. She thought back to her mother's words, "The truth always comes out, Emily. Be patient." That same afternoon, Emily received an unexpected message on her school phone: "Get ready for Friday, a special visitor at your school." Emily did not yet know that this visitor would not only surprise her classmates, but also put Mrs. Henderson in her place and forever change the way she was perceived. On Friday morning, the hall at Lincoln High was bustling as usual. Students chatted, laughed, and hurried to their classrooms, unaware that this day would be anything but ordinary. Emily, however, sensed a strange excitement in the air. Suddenly, a black car with tinted windows pulled up in front of the school. The students watched, intrigued, as an elegant woman confidently stepped out. She wore a simple but impeccable suit, and her calm demeanor exuded natural authority. "Who is it?" whispered a student next to Emily. Emily felt her heart race. She knew. It was her mother, Dr. Angela Johnson, a world-renowned astrophysicist at NASA. Ms. Henderson, busy preparing her lesson, didn't immediately notice the arrival. But when she looked up and saw Angela walk through the classroom door, her face froze. She paled slightly, unable to find the right words. Angela smiled gently at Emily before addressing the whole class. "Hello everyone. I'm Angela Johnson, a scientist at NASA. Today, I'm here to talk to you about my work and the opportunities in the field of science and engineering." A respectful silence fell immediately. The students, speechless, stared at the woman who had just confirmed what Emily had been saying all year. Some murmured, "It's true, she's telling the truth." Ms. Henderson, for her part, cleared her throat, uncomfortable. The mocking laughter she had uttered earlier in the week suddenly seemed very distant. She had underestimated not only Emily, but also her mother. Angela began her presentation, explaining space missions, satellites, and propulsion technologies. The students were captivated, asking questions Emily never imagined she would hear. Each answer from her mother reinforced the truth of Emily's words and unintentionally humiliated the teacher. At the end of the presentation, Angela turned her gaze to Emily and said, "Emily, I'm proud of you. You always believed in yourself, even when others doubted you. It's this confidence that will take you far." The students applauded, some standing, while Mrs. Henderson, red with embarrassment, murmured, "Well, I guess I was wrong." Emily, her eyes shining, turned to her mother and whispered, "Thank you for coming." Angela smiled at him, a mixture of pride and affection in her eyes. Always, my darling. That day, Emily learned a valuable lesson. Sometimes, the truth is enough to change the perception of an entire world, and respect is earned not through fear or intimidation, but through consistency and courage. After her mother's visit, Lincoln High School seemed different. The students, who used to make fun of Emily, now looked at her with admiration and curiosity. Even Jake, the classmate who had most ridiculed Emily, avoided mockery and cast hesitant glances, as if weighing his words before speaking. Emily, aware of the change, held her head high but remained humble. She knew that the respect she had earned was not due to pride, but to truth and hard work. She continued to answer questions, help her classmates, and demonstrate her interest in science with the same passion. Ms. Henderson, on the other hand, felt uneasy. The day had been marked by a mixture of pride and humiliation for her. She timidly approached Emily at the end of class. "Emily, I wanted to tell you. I'm sorry for my remarks last week." Emily looked up in surprise. The professor had never admitted his mistake before. "Thank you, Mrs. Henderson," Emily replied calmly. "I understand you didn't know, but now you do." The professor hesitated, searching for the right words, before concluding awkwardly, "Well, perhaps I could help you organize a science project?" Emily smiled gently. "That would be wonderful, Miss Henderson." "Thank you." In the schoolyard, her classmates approached her to ask questions about her mother, NASA, and space missions. Emily explained patiently, sharing her knowledge and inspiring those who listened. She realized then that mockery and ridicule hadn't destroyed her, on the contrary, they had made her stronger and more confident. That day, Emily understood a crucial truth: courage and perseverance always triumph over the laughter and judgment of others. And sometimes, a single person, by revealing the truth, can change an entire perception. Weeks passed since Dr. Angela Johnson's visit to Lincoln High, and the class had completely changed. Emily was no longer the target of ridicule, but a source of inspiration for her classmates. Students came to her to ask questions about space, rockets, and even Angela's career at NASA. One day, Mrs. Henderson spoke in front of the whole class, her tone different from that of previous weeks. "Class, I'd like to talk to you about Emily Johnson." The students immediately fell silent. "I made the mistake of doubting her, and I was wrong to laugh at her words. Today, I want to apologize publicly. Emily, you have shown what it means to believe in yourself and pursue your dreams despite skepticism." Emily felt a mixture of surprise and pride. She stood up, her heart light, and calmly replied, "Thank you, Ms. Henderson. I understand that everyone can make mistakes. But I'm glad the truth has finally come out." The students burst into applause. Even Jake, who had been the most mocking, approached and extended his hand to Emily. "I'm sorry, Emily. You were right all along." Emily smiled, squeezing his hand confidently. She knew this moment wasn't just for her, but for everyone who had been underestimated or ridiculed for their dreams. That day, Emily realized that respect and admiration don't come from fear or position, but from truth and perseverance. And that sometimes, it only takes one person to show their worth for the whole world to open its eyes. As she left the classroom that evening, Emily looked up at the sky, imagining the stars and the missions her mother worked on. She knew this was only the beginning of her own journey, a journey where she would never have to doubt herself, and where every mocking laugh would simply become a memory of a past that could no longer define her.